morning.
All right, welcome to today's class. My name is Jon Witt. This is my son Noah Witt, and this is a Hatha 1 class, so it's a fundamental class. So if you're new to the class, welcome. If you've taken it before, welcome back. I hope these classes are really helping you, benefiting your practice, keeping you in good mind and body. So I'm always available if you have questions about anything that we cover. Everything is optional, which I think it should be in any kind of setting. Everybody has a different level, a different capacity. So I start a little bit later because we have church bells around the corner from us. So I always start the class a little bit later if you didn't know. But you don't need a lot of equipment. 2 blocks are good. I'm probably going to do some stuff at the wall in the later portion of the class. And you don't need a full wall, but that it helps in what I'll be using. So I'm going to start the class in a standing position. So you could stand with your feet slightly a little bit wider than the shoulders is a good place. Anytime you bring your feet in closer together, you're less stable. It's a little bit easier to stand with a wide stance, but it's a good place to start. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of moving the weight around a little bit in my feet. So just moving the weight side to side. And let's say you just can't do that. Just think of shifting the weight, just passively shifting the weight, and then that'll help you with, because at some point you're going to have to move in opposite directions. You're not always going to have to, life is not straight. You're going to have to move in directions to get through it. So what I'm going to do is just come back to the middle, and I'm going to bend my knees, just pulsing. So it's not a really big bend in the knees. It's just a micro bend. But with a small micro bend in the legs, your legs can get stronger. So if I'm a person that has some arthritis in my knees, maybe you're not bending your knees as much as, say, another person, which is perfectly fine, right? But over time, by bending the knees, you're going to increase the fluid within the knee, and the knee should glide better, right? There's a bit of a fold in the hips, but it's really getting the ankles. Your ankles move better, your knees will move better, your hips will move better, your spine will move better. So just a couple more of these. You can hold it statically too. Right? In yoga, we're typically holding static positions like Hatha yoga, and then you can come up. But what I like about motion is that each time you're moving, it's going to require you to, your nervous system to be more alert. So I'm going to come back up to, my legs are going to be straight. Now I'm just going to be swinging my right arm independently. So my right arm is swinging. Got to watch out for people or walls so that you don't hit anything. And then I'm going to make it into a bigger motion, but I like this small motion for someone that couldn't move their arm more than this, right? But I'm going to swing it back in space. And the good thing about the arm is there's weight to it. So you're probably going to need extra weight to mobilize the shoulder, to get the shoulder to be stronger and to get it more flexible. So just go back to swinging it. We're still on the right side, and then I'm going to swing it forward. So I'm swinging the right arm forward like I'm throwing a ball, And I would keep the reps low initially, but then you can do many, many times. And I say this, I'm switching now over to the left side. So my right foot is forward and my left leg is back. And it doesn't matter which side you start with, but just kind of going back to like reps and stuff like that. If you do like 5-10 reps of anything, it's, I think it's on a lower level. But as you get used to things, then you can do them more, 20, 30 reps, even into the hundreds. So I'm going to take my left arm, I'm going to swing it back. And let's say your arm, again, doesn't move in a full range of motion, all the more reason to do it. But, you have a surgery, you got to be careful with what's still within the arm, right? Say you have stitches or hardware. So I'm now swinging it forward. So throwing like I'm throwing left-handed. And that's something that you can do is, just start throwing with your non-dominant arm a little bit, which is really great for the shoulder and your neck. And then I'm going to come back and I'm just going to swing it a little bit. So just shaking it out. So just come forward or come back into more of a neutral stance so that your feet are just slightly, about the width of the shoulders. And then come up on the toes. You can hook the thumbs behind you. And then when you come up on the toes, just look over your right shoulder and just notice if one side of your neck is shorter. Right? That's the side that you'd want to get longer. Typically it's the right side if you're turning the head to the right. Then turn the head to center and then over to the left. Wouldn't be bad if you came up and down, right? And then you could turn forward and then you could lower the heels. And then just come up onto the toes. Lift the heels and then lower the heels. You can come up, lift for 3 seconds, and then you can lower. So you can just lower back down. So something really good with the pelvis is because your hands are on your pelvis, I typically stick my butt out. I have an anterior tilt in my pelvis. So it depends on what you're doing, right? When you sit, you might slouch, but when you stand, you may arc. So it's good to kind of know what your habits are and what you're doing. So I'm sticking my butt out for a moment, and then I'm bringing my tailbone down, and then your glutes are working, your abdomen is working, and this could really help you with the way that you stand. You shouldn't look like a fictional cartoon character at some point, right? You could, no matter what your age is, you can still look good, right? Not that it's about looking good. You can stick the butt out, and then you can lower the tailbone down. And this, I'm not gonna hold it, but this is something that you could do on your own, is hold for 1 minute to 3 minutes. Just this posterior tilt, really, really good for the spine. And then you can just come back, and then just take the feet a little bit wider than the shoulders. I'm gonna turn my feet out, and then I'm gonna bend my knees. And again, really small, if you got anything going on in the knees, and let's say you're a person, you just love to go big. A shorter or a smaller type of position would be better. So my thumbs are up, and then I'm gonna turn my thumbs back just so that you can see this better, and I'm pushing my thighs apart. So as I push my legs apart, you could do what Noah's doing. You could sit on a chair and do this. It's I guess aesthetically, more exciting if you bend the knees more and you sit lower. And then it's much more difficult if you are in an overhead position. So say you're like, hey, I want this to be more physical. You could be in an overhead position. So come back up and bring the arms down, and then just kind of move the weight just back into a neutral stance. So just kind of see which leg you favor. So I'm gonna stretch out your quadriceps just a little bit, which I really think is neglected, and it'll also help you with your balance. So use a wall if you need it. I'm gonna bend my right knee, have your right foot on a chair or any kind of piece of furniture. If I hold the foot, it's definitely more of a stretch. So if it's really hard on you, know that you can hold the shin. Not that that's bad, both are great, right? As it gets easier, you could hold the foot with both hands. Just a few more breaths here. Take one last deep breath, and then bring the right foot down, and then you're gonna take the left leg up, and then as you take the left leg up, I'm holding the foot or I'm holding the shin. And kind of what I was doing about moving the weight around is really what's happening when you lose your balance. So you gotta kind of know like how you're holding your weight. A big part of losing your balance is your head position. So as you get older, you really got to work on keeping your head back, and then that'll help with your equilibrium. So push strong through the right foot, take a couple deep breaths, say this is easy. It's good that it is easy for you. And then you can bring your left foot down. And then when you're bringing your left foot down, I'm gonna work a little bit on your balance in a different capacity. So I'm gonna take my left foot up off the floor, and not that we have to hold this for time, but we will today, is I'm just gonna do a circle with my left leg and say that's easy. What I'm hoping that you can eventually do is a figure eight. So I'm moving my left foot in a figure eight position. This is so good for both your left hip and your right hip. So if you're not doing a lot of physical yoga or weight training, your glutes get really weak, and that can be partially why you struggle with balance, but just also joint, it can afflict the joints. So you're at about 40 seconds. Say I cramp up, I gotta come out of this. Just go back into it, and you'll train the leg and getting stronger. The movement of the left leg is gonna make you more unstable. The pelvis can move, the upper body can move. Like this is something that should move. And then bring the left foot down. That's a minute. And then as you take the right leg up, just start with a circle, because you might just need a circle. And I'd be happy if you just held it statically. When you're balancing, if you can go to a figure eight, if you find that your balance is easy, most likely your alignment is off. So I see often with people is that they lean too far back when they balance. And they think they're in an upright position, and they're really not. So I'm just, again, if you're, struggling with the weight or the balance, what I would do is I'd use the wall, right? I'd use a chair. Again, if I was cramping up, take note of which leg is easier to move. Take note of which leg is easier to stand on. And this can help you. So just about 5 more seconds. I skateboard a bit, so my left leg is actually stronger in standing like this. So you can bring the right foot down, and then just again, take the feet out into a wide position, just to stretch out the hips a little bit differently. So get into the inner thighs, the adductors. It's just good for standing. Have the legs strong, have them straight, take the arms out. Take a few deep breaths here. Making your positions bigger is needed. If you really need to stretch the body out more, taking your poses into the beginning of like split work is very safe and incredibly effective and very therapeutic. So it's just, if I hurt, I'm definitely gonna bring my feet in closer. That's just smart. If I'm cramping, I'm gonna step back in, but then I'm gonna step back out. That's a good fight to have. So just take a couple more breaths. You could squeeze the legs in. You could push the thighs out. You don't have to sit incredibly low, but this will help with just getting the body to move in multiple planes. So toe heel the feet in, right? Some people like to hop in. You could hop it in. And then you can just step the feet back into a neutral stance. So I'll come down onto your hands and your knees. Have the hands just underneath the shoulders. And then as you have the hands just underneath the shoulders, you can push through the hands. You can round your back into a cat stretch. Look forward, look up. Exhale, round your back. Look forward, look up, arc your spine. And then exhale, round your back. So just turn the hands out to the sides, which I think might be better for some people. So it's good to do. If you find the leverage too much, make it smaller. But over time, really, really good for the hands. You want the hands to have good strength. You want the bones to be strong. I say this casually sometimes is, if you were to fall, things break. Right? There's nothing wrong if something broke, but if you can prepare your body so that nothing breaks is I think a great goal to have. And like I said, if it does, there's obviously good practice to get you back into feeling better again. So I'm going to come back into the middle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the back of my right hand to the floor. All right? And I'm just kind of moving the weight a little bit around. And again, if this is like really tight, tightness is not, a bad thing. I have tightness in my forearms and my shoulders as well. It's just, this is good to prepare the hands because, like I said, you don't want to break anything. But with yoga, especially 21st century yoga, is that you're on your hands quite a bit. And you want to prepare yourself for that so that, again, you're successful. So come back into the middle and have the hands underneath the shoulders and lift up into a plank. So take the knees up off the floor. So I use more of a gymnastic type of way of doing this. So I'm really shallow and short through the front of my body. And this is really what you need to do when you're doing an arm balance, you know, so it adds more strength. Just come down with the knees and have the toes tucked, and then you can sit back on the feet just for a couple seconds. You can come forward, say, and then sit back with the feet untucked. So it's really good to stretch out the feet. So tuck the toes, sit back on the heels. You could put a pillow underneath your feet. You could put a pillow underneath your bum. This is all really good. And then eventually you could do it on a harder surface. Like my floor is pretty hard. Maybe you need to do it on a carpet. So I'm just sitting back. But notice when you sit back in these positions, you may need less pressure in one foot. You may need more pressure in one foot. No one's perfectly balanced. So you're doing that to help with that. So I'm gonna come off the feet, and what I'm gonna do is come on my blocks. I use this more in my second level class or my handstand class. It's a good way, it's very basic, but it'll help build up strength. And when I'm gripping the block with the hands, it's actually less of a stretch for the wrist. So say you have, you know, something going on in your wrist, or you broke your arm, right? This could be really good for you. So I'm gonna push through the hands, I'm gonna round through the shoulders, and I'm gonna lift the knees up off the floor. And then, like in any type of class setting, you wanna kind of see what's actually really helping you more. And these are the things that you could use daily, and you could use them throughout the day. So I'm really squeezing the blocks with the hands, and then I'm gonna take it up into a down dog, and then in a down dog, I'm gonna paddle the legs out. So the blocks will help give you more reach through the arms. So everybody's arms are shorter than their legs, right? So with the blocks, it really helps make the arms a little bit longer. So I'm paddling the legs out to get the, you know, it's not really incredibly important to get the heels down, and it is. It'll stretch out your back more by getting the heels down. Obviously, you don't want to force it down, but over time you can get the heels more down, which will help with squatting. So swing forward and through into an up dog. Move yourself through your arms, elevate through the chest, and pull back up into a down dog. So pull all the way back up into a down dog. Right, one more time, come forward, come through. You could be on the tops of the feet, just as an example. They're both good. Right, I would use both. And then go back up into a down dog, pull back. Right, and then come down onto the knees, and we're gonna still use the blocks if you have them. If you don't have blocks, be up on your fingertips. So my hips are just over my knees, and then I'm gonna walk back, and I'm gonna pull my ribs in. Really bringing my ribs in. And then I can collapse too, right? But I'm pulling in to stretch out my back. And then I'm gonna come forward again where my hands are over my shoulders. And you know, what's really popular in yoga is stepping forward from a down dog. It's not like you have to transition your poses like that, but I'm gonna do a little bit of that today just to give you some variety. I do like stepping back for people. I think that's much easier. But when you're on a higher surface, it's so much easier to step the foot forward. So I'm gonna go back up into a down dog, and then as I go up into a down dog, I'm gonna take my right leg up, and I'm gonna bend my right knee and move my right foot towards the wall that's behind me. But what I wanna do is I wanna lift the knee up, right? I'm gonna pull my knee into my chest. I'm gonna take it up, and then I'm gonna step, careful with the blocks. If you're unstable, I just wiggle a little bit. You want the blocks to be lower, right? I'm gonna step the right foot forward in between the blocks. Right? And then I'm just gonna come up a little bit with my upper body. So I'm using my legs to support me, not just, you know, coming, not that it's bad to come up, right? We'll eventually come up in these positions. So I'm gonna bring my left hand down, and I'm gonna reach with my elbow, and it is morning, so maybe you can't get super low, use a block. So I'm going to get my elbow to the floor, possibly, and then I'm going to take my right arm up. Now, the knee could be down for this. Perfectly fine, right? You could bring the elbow down, and you could take it up. So there's, I never get caught up on like I have to do it like a magazine or a book or what anybody's teaching you. So the elbow's down, and then take it up. Just good to twist. So bring the right hand down, and then take the back knee off the floor, right? And step the left foot forward. And step your right, actually step back into a plank. And in a plank, right, really get smaller through the front of the body. You've been doing planks for a while, you could be on the tops of the feet. Not that this is better, it's just a little bit more difficult to hold. Then you can tuck the toes, you can pull back up into a down dog, you can pedal the legs out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my left leg up, and then I'm going to bend my left knee, and just move your left knee a little bit around in space. If you're cramping up, that's common. It might be just that you're tight or you're weak or a combination. And then I'm going to bring the knee and nose together. I'm going to pull it in and take the left leg up. And then I'll step the left foot forward in between the hands. And like I said, it could come up a little bit, which I like this because a lot of times people rely, there's just too much weight in the hands. And you want to use your legs to support yourself. So you can lift up away from the thigh. So I'm going to bring my right elbow to the floor, to a block, or my left elbow, excuse me. So I'm bringing my left elbow down, and then I'm going to take my left arm up, bring the elbow to a block, right, if needed, then take it up, and then bring the elbow down, right, and then take it up. So these are bigger motions, but more obvious. But I really like small motions. I'll show those at some point. You can bring the left hand down, and then you can step the right foot forward. So the right foot forward, just be in a soft forward bend where your knees are bent, and actually round your back. So just round the back. This is kind of what I'm talking about is, if I'm in extension, it's less stress. But I'm rounding my back, and I'm going to slowly roll myself up. And then as you roll up, I'm just going to step back so that people on Instagram can see. I'm just going to arc my back, just an extension. Remember when we were doing the posterior tilt? So draw the tailbone down, lift through the chest, extend your body, and then you can come back to neutral. I'm just going to do a basic side bend, something that I do most mornings. Just a basic routine is flexion, extension, side bending, twisting. Really, really simple, but highly, highly beneficial. So I'm just passive, just letting my head hang down, using my feet. Once you build up some heat, it's great to do stuff like this. You can bring yourself up, and then you can go to the right, and then it's the left side. So I say this sometimes is that each side is going to have its unique set of benefits. So going to each side is beneficial, but on certain days you may want to hold one side longer, right? And that's the downside of always listening to someone like myself or anyone, because you really want to practice more and to what you actually need. You could bring yourself up. Now I'm just going to do a really easy twist. Is I'm going to turn from my head, turn from my chest, turn from my pelvis. Some of these basic things are really the most beneficial. It's the beginning of something much bigger. So if you can do it really well in a small capacity, you'll be more inclined to do it in a bigger capacity. So just get really tall through the head, upper body. Super basic, but again, very beneficial. So turn the head, turn the chest, then turn the hips. And like when we were moving the leg in spiral, this is where you'll see certain things may not move as well, which is okay. You can drop the tailbone, again, if you're more of an anterior person. I am. Maybe you need more of an anterior when you stand. and then you can turn forward. Just go back to having the knees bent a bit, and just bend the knees, straighten the legs, bend the knees, really small. And again, the smallest motion will help get the legs to be stronger and will help build up the strength around the knees so that you can do a bigger, like squatting or one-legged squatting, or eventually, this is the beginning of jumping. Not that I'm gonna jump, but I jump a little bit every day, some days more than others, but so good for the knees. If the trick to jumping is really how you land. If you absorb the weight, your weight, jumping's very safe, very, very good for the legs. So come back up to standing, take the arms overhead. Again, be in a more of a posterior tilt if you needed that. Come up on the toes, lift the heels off the floor. So just up on the toes, extending through the arms, right? And then lower the heels. You can exhale, lower the arms. Then just bring the chin into the chest, just so that you have this kind of series. I'm going to do it again. So just roll. You could be halfway, you could be lower. So just round your back, which again, some schools will say, don't ever round your back. I think it's you'll feel if it's actually too much. Slowly roll up. You keep it to 10 seconds, 20 seconds, it's safe. Drop through the tailbone, lift through the pubic bone. Just a small little arc. Extend. The majority of our spine really doesn't bend as much. It's designed to rotate, but there still should be some extension. There's more flexion, right, than extension in the thoracic. And then come back to center and then side bend again. Right or left. Going to my left, so my right side's being enhanced. Let go of the head. Let it hang. Lift the head. Lift your upper body. Go to the right. Side bend. So good for the neck and the shoulders, but also your hips. What I feel is it's adjusting my hip. And for you, it might be different. And inhale, bring yourself up. Twist. So turn from the head, turn from the chest, and then naturally turning through the pelvis a little bit. I mean, you could keep the hips squared, but they can also turn. Couple deep breaths. Then turn forward, turn from the chest, turn from the pelvis, right? And then you're in an upright position. Again, it's good practice for me to bring my tailbone down and my pubis up, but for you, like I said, maybe you're not doing that as much. And then you could turn forward and just bringing the arms up. I'm going to do the arms a bit more, just shaking the arms, or just swing the right arm a little bit. Swing it in space. You could use more of your legs than more of your arm strength if you wanted to. Like I'm moving my feet, and then I'm going to circle my right arm. And then you can circle it forward. If you're really tight, you'll get really sweaty, really hot from something like this. Really basic, but very beneficial. And then you can just go back to relaxing it. And then I'm going to swing the left arm just back and forth to start. But like I said, maybe your motion's way smaller than mine. It doesn't have to be super big to be beneficial. So I'm going to swing it back initially. And if you have very tight shoulders, let your torso turn a little bit, right? Just so that it's not too much leverage in the shoulder. And then I'm going to swing it forward. And then I'm just going to let it go, shake it out. Go back to having the knees bent. Take the arms forward. Straighten the legs. Bend the knees. Straighten the legs. Arms are counterweight. Right? Just so that your lower body stays, not just its upper body, right? But what I'm going to do with the arms is just really good for coordination. So we're going to move the arms together and independently. So This can be a little tricky at first. It shouldn't hurt, and you might be really goofy with it initially. So just take your right arm alongside of you and look to it. Follow it, bring it down, bring it up, and bring it down. And then go to the left side and bring it forward. But keep looking to the hand. So you might have to look to your non-dominant hand when we do this. What we're going to do is move the arms, one arm back and one arm forward. So I'm going to take the arms up. So I'm going to bring my left arm forward and my right arm back. And then I'm going to bring it forward and back. Right. Left arm's moving forward, right arm's moving back. Left arm's moving forward, right arm's moving back. And, it takes a little bit of time, but it's a good thing to learn. And then I'm going to bring the right arm forward. So just swing the left arm back just a few times, just so that it's even and so that you know which direction you're moving. And then the right arm is moving forward. It might be a little bit easier this side, just because you might be right-handed, you throw with your right arm. So I'm going to bring my right arm forward and my left arm back. Right? So you can look to the hands. And like I said, it's okay to move the body. My left shoulder, I have an old injury, so I'm not super rigid with it always being like a narrowed torso, right? But you could shake the arms out a little bit and that'll help with your arms. So just take your right leg back up, like I said, about stretching out the legs and also working a little bit more on your balance. So it'll be a little bit of, more, it'll help with your back bends quite a bit. It'll help with your posture. Most yoga classes, right, are geared more towards hamstrings. It's really the front of the body that you'll probably need more stretching. You can bring the right foot down. Not that you should neglect your hamstrings, not that you shouldn't stretch out your hamstrings. Of course you should do that, especially if you like vinyasa yoga. But I'm just holding the left foot just to give you a little bit more practice in this. Again, use the wall. A couple deep breaths. And then you can bring the left foot down. And then when you bring the left foot down, we'll come down on your hands and your knees. And then with you being down on your hands and your knees, just move the blocks off to the side and just push through the hands and round through the shoulders. So round through your back, right? Now what you're going to do is take your left hand, if you can, behind your back and just do it one arm. Just kind of see where your weight, how you hold your weight. And then bring the left hand down and then bring the right arm back behind you. This could be in plank, right, or more of a down dog, but just to start with, this is a good place to start. And then you could bring the hands down or the right hand down. Just go back to having the hands turned out and move around your hands, your wrist. So just kind of move around, see what angles are tight, and that's where you can kind of stay, or that's what you can move into. If it hurts, right, make it smaller. Right? And then come back up onto your hands, round through the shoulders, lift up into a plank. Use your fingertips, use your knuckles. Go back up into a down dog. Paddle it out. Right? Move it a little bit longer if you can, just so that the heel's off the floor. So you might be like, well, my heel's already off the floor. Then you don't have to make it longer. But for me, I have to make it pretty long to do this. And I'm just gonna lift the heel and lower. So it's not like a full up, but I'm just pulsing a little bit, and that'll stretch out the ankle and the calf muscle. Then I'm gonna bring the left foot down, and then I'm just lifting the heel and lowering. But over time, what I feel might be different from you, is I feel my whole back stretch out. So very good. So I'm just lifting the heel and just kind of not bouncing, but I am pulsing a little bit. And then you can bring that right foot down. Now swing forward and through into an up dog. And pull back up into a down dog. right? And then come down onto your hands and your knees. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to step my left foot halfway on my mat, right? So I'm going to do a side plank. But this is the beginning, just here, right? But I could spin the heel and then take the left arm up. So, you could be in the full position. Some people can't do it. So rely more on your left foot if it's really hard on the right hand or the right arm. Then bring the left hand down, come down with the right knee, bring the left knee back. Bring the shoulder over the hand and wrist, then step the right foot forward. So you want to keep this if you can. So a true 90-degree angle is a block, behind the wrist, the forearm. You can take the right arm up, right, turning the upper body to the right. Take a couple deep breaths here. And then bring the right hand down and bring the left knee down. So go back to having your toes tucked and sit back on your heels just a little bit. Maybe you can sit all the way back. Right? Shouldn't be overbearing, and if it is, have your hands down. Untuck the toes, sit back on the feet. Right? If it's your knees, put blankets behind your knees. And again, maybe you're just not doing this just yet. So I'm going to tuck the toes, sit back on the heels, stretch out the toes, right? Get the toes to move apart. And then I'm going to come forward on my hands. I'm going to untuck the toes and sit back on my heels just for a few breaths. Take 3 deep breaths. Breathe in, breathe out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the blocks again for the transition. But what's really great is a side angle, is having the knee down. It's really good leverage. It's a lot like using the wall. So I'm going to have my blocks here. And then with my blocks here, I'm going to lift up into a... So you want to protract through the shoulders, tuck through the toes, pull back up into a down dog. There's an external rotation. And then I'm going to take my left leg up, bend the knee, get a little bit into the hip. Just a small motion, again, will lead to something much bigger. And then I'm going to bring the left foot forward, and I'm going to bring the right knee down. So if you need a block underneath your left hand, you could do that. But I'm just going to take the hands over to the right side. I'm going to look over the shoulder, stretch out your back, lift your head. And then I'm going to take the hands back into the middle. And then, not that you have to get lower, right? But you could get lower to stretch out your back more. And for most people, getting lower is easier than coming up. So the getting lower will help you in eventually coming upright, which is more like Kapotasana in yoga. So you can move the weight around. And then what I'm going to do is come up onto my hands, and this is what I was talking about, the leverage. So my left hand is on the inside of my left leg, and then I'm going to bring my right elbow down, and then I'm going to lead with the elbow, right? So I'm just turning through the chest. I'm going to bring the elbow down again, and then open up through the chest, and then I'll take the arm up, which is just kind of icing on the cake. It's not necessarily better, just it might help you more in having the arm straight rather than having the elbow bent. So push the left arm into the left leg if you're having the knee, if all the force is forward, because it might be pretty tight in the hips. Like I said, if you're tight in your hips, just bring your hand down, relax, smile about it, and be over, right? And then you can go back into it, right, if you really needed it. So I'm going to take my back knee up off the floor. And I'm going to take my front foot up off the floor, and I'm going to stretch out the front leg, so into more like a pyramid, but more of an active style. And eventually, not that you have to do this, but I should be able to eventually hold my poses without my hands, right? Then bring the hands down, bend the left knee, and then step the right foot or left foot back. So step it back into a plank. Go back up into a down dog. So I don't do chaturangas in this type of class, but you could obviously do them. You could swing forward and through into an up dog. Again, you could be on the tops of the feet, and then you could pull back up into a down dog. So take the right leg up, and then, bend the knee, move the right leg around a little bit in space, because it may cramp. You can move it around, then step the right foot all the way forward, and then with the right foot forward, you're going to bring the back knee down the floor, so the left knee is going to come down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hands over to my left side and look high over my left shoulder. So breathe in, breathe out, abdomen's in, and this is what helps to stretch out the back more. And then bring the hands in, and then use your blocks to get lower, right? So not important to get lower, but if you're ready to get lower, you bring your elbows down. You can move the weight around. Take a couple deep breaths here. Breathe in, breathe out. And then I'm going to come up on my hands, and then I'm going to keep my right shoulder and my knee together, and then I'm going to bring my left elbow down or forearm down for a moment, and then I'm going to turn from my chest, turn through my arm. I'm going to bring the left arm down again, and then I'm going to bring that arm up again. So turning through the chest, taking the left arm up. It's the beginning of squatting, right? It's a very good way to help you eventually squat. So bring the left hand down, take the back knee off the floor, use your blocks. I'm going to make it just a little bit shorter, and then I'm going to lift up through the front foot. So it's a bigger stretch through the leg. But what you're doing here is you're actively pulling the leg to the upper body, which is sometimes not practiced, and that's what you need. Again, you want to be able to support your weight without your hands. Probably not the best example for this, but like I said, all these positions, you want your legs to support you rather than your feet. Or your feet more than your hands. Bend your right knee and then step your left foot forward. And then with the left foot forward, just separate the feet a little bit wider than the shoulders. These blocks, which I have, are weighted. There's weight to them. So it's much easier to squat. So fill up a backpack, or grab some laundry detergent, and that'll help you in squatting. And then I'm going to bring the blocks down, and I'm going to slowly roll myself up to standing. So roll yourself up, come all the way up. You can be in a bit of an extension. Lift the chin, lift the chest, bring the tailbone down, elevate through the front of the body, the sternum, and then you can come back to center. And then just the sequence that we've been using is just side bend to the left, lift yourself up, and side bend to the right. Bring yourself up, and then you can just twist to the right. So turn through the head, turn through the chest, turn a little bit through the hips, pelvis, and turn through the head, turn through the chest, and then turn through the pelvis. Just see which side you twist better to. I mean, in terms of sensation, they feel about the same, but range, I twist much better to my left than my right. So if I was practicing on my own, I would go back to my right. So we're going to go to the wall, and just a couple things that I think are beneficial. Is first thing that we'll do is we'll do a wall sit. And like I said, you could be in the frame of a door. So I'm going to bring my feet forward about 2.5 feet. If I have longer legs, say you're closer to 6 foot or above, you'd have your legs more forward. And then I'm going to bend the knees, and I'm going to pull the elbows back and the shoulders back and the head back. And I say this all the time. If you always practice a 90-degree angle, don't practice a 90-degree angle. sit at a 45-degree angle. Because you get really good at that angle. If I sit here, it's beneficial, right? If you haven't sat there yet. So eventually get to that. But, those of you that sit really low, especially if you're an active yoga practitioner, it's probably better higher. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lift my heels off the floor. So say you don't have a lot of time, but you really want to strengthen your legs. It's more quad dominant if my heels are up. Not that it has to be this way. Couple deep breaths. Really, really good. The wall won't lie. The wall will get you more upright. And then you can lower the heels, and then you can bring yourself back up. And then just have the legs just underneath you. And just step back so that you're just touching the wall, but kind of feel what doesn't touch the wall. Right? For some people, it's their hips. Some people, they stand and they're here. So getting the hips to pull back is so good for their lower back. Some people, it's their head. So just drawing the head back. Some people, it's the shoulders. Not everything has to touch, but just notice what touches and what doesn't touch. My left shoulder is more forward than my right, so when I'm doing this, I'm just pulling the left shoulder back. Couple breaths, really basic, but very helpful. Because people are like, I don't have anything wrong with my posture. You do until you have that problem with your back, right? So it's good to practice, not like a crazy person, but just to have better posture, I think, throughout life is a very good thing to have. So come away from the wall, and what you're going to do is just have your right hand at the wall. And then I'm just going to bring my head away from my hand. So it's a nice rotation in the shoulder, very good for the neck. You couldn't be in hand flat. I know some people could. You could be in a fist. Right? No, you want to, I think this is a perfect time to be more adaptable. These are strange times. To really, when, you're throwing a curveball, you got to adjust. That's the biggest thing I think I've learned, from this situation that we're all in. So you can just let your head drop, and then you can lift the head. I'm going to go over to the left side. I'm going to bring my left hand to the wall. This is the side plank. So the benefits of having the hand at the height of the shoulder, you get this nice rotation in the shoulder. And again, if you need a posterior tilt, which I do, I'm going to bring my tailbone down. I'm going to strengthen my abdomen, and that'll help rotate the shoulder. But why people, and this is, I don't want to pick on women, but most women practice yoga, is that they're weak in their abdomen, and that's why they have the sway in the back. And say a male practitioner has the sway in the back, it could come from weakness of the abdomen, but it's also tightness in the shoulders. So if I'm in an overhead position, I'll compensate sometimes in my shoulders because of the tightness. So move the head away from the hand, and you might be like, wow, this one shoulder is just, and you don't have to do it crazy, but if you're having the effects in one arm, you could just, when you get some free time, just do that one arm, and then that'll help with the neck and the shoulder, and really, really great. It's quite passive, but you can literally feel the tissues move. So the tissues move, you can move the bones better. Take one more breath, and then you can lift the head, and you can bring the left hand down. And then I'm just going to do some things at the wall. It's a little bit more twisting. So I'm going to be away from the wall, and it's okay that you don't touch the wall. But like I said, we're turning through the head, turning through the hips, and then you could bring the right hand to the wall, or fist. And maybe you don't go all the way, right? You could turn, something going on in your knee, that one heel, your heels could lift up, because it could be really too much on the knee. And then I'm going to turn forward, I'm going to turn through the head, I'm going to turn through the chest. I'll bring the right hand to the wall. So this is active stretching, which, If you want to be technical, it's more mobility, but I like both. I really believe in both. So I'm turning, bringing the hand to the wall. I'm going to turn, bring the left hand to the wall. I'm going to turn from my head, turn my chest, my pelvis, right hand. I'm going to turn through my head, my chest, my pelvis, left hand. Turning through the head, turning through the chest, turning through the pelvis. Just one more time to the right. And like I said, say you have a difficult time turning or twisting, just spend more time in it, do more repetitions. And turn forward with the head, chest, pelvis, and then left hand. Again, you might need more tailbone down and pubic bone up. And then you can turn forward and you can release the arm and the leg. So I'm going to come down into a seated position. And then when I come down into a seat, I'm just going to have my left leg forward and my right leg is back in a 90-90 kind of stretch. Some people have problems with the front knee. It could be tucked in more, it could be back more, it could be elevated, right? There's ways around it. But I'm gonna use a block. I'm gonna come forward however far I need to, but say it's too much leverage, have your hands down. Use your hands for support, which is great too. But I'm just working on extension, and then there's more of a stretch in the hip in the left hip. I'm actively lifting my left leg to my block, and then that's stretching out my hip as well. And then I'm going to bring myself up, and then when I bring myself up, I'm going to bring weight into my left hand, and I'm going to bring my right leg around and forward, right? I'm going to lift the foot. Use your hand if you need to, right? And then you can take it back. But what we did earlier, the figure eight, is kind of similar to that. Taking the right leg up, and then bringing the right leg forward, and then bringing it back and down. I'm using the hand, but you could do it without the hand, right? So lift the knees, take the knees over to the right side, with the knees to the right. I'm going to use the block. I'm going to come forward, and I'm still a very active person, so there's days I'm like, whoa, my hips are tight, and it's actually a good thing. With someone that just does yoga, they kind of, I think there's this big misconception of like, wow, when is my hip ever going to release? Some of the tension that you feel is actually good, and it's what's protecting you. So you're always going to feel a little bit of a stretch in your positions. It's never going to be that you're so flexible that you don't feel anything. And if that gets to that point, then it's really hard for you to hold your body together. And, then it's difficult to run, impossible to jump, very difficult to go up and down stairs. And I think those are more important than just having, the splits. I mean, you could still have the splits and stay strong, right? But you want strength in those positions. So I'm going to bring that hand down, my right hand down. I'm going to bring my left leg forward and then be in more of a cross-legged position. Again, if you need some assistance, just lightly, as little as you need with the left hand, take the left leg up and then bring it around. Say the motion is irritating. Maybe just don't do it. Obviously get these things checked out at some point, but should be eventually good to help lubricate the hips so that they move better. So I'm gonna do a fish pose to end, but you're welcome to do a shavasana. So I'm gonna be on my back with my block. I'm gonna do it on the second level. So if you've never done this before, do it on a low level. And then the second block is for the head. So I'll do it this way just so that I'm not sticking my pelvis into the second camera. So we got 3 cameras here. So you can go back over your block. I'm gonna have my knees bent, and then when I go over the block, if you're like, whoa, that is too hard, right? Come out of it and then put something over it, like a blanket or a pillow. And then I'm just gonna take my hands behind my head and then move my head back, because you might need some filler. So I could use my thumbs to get to the block, right? And it's not about getting lower, you know? You could have your head on a block, like so, but I'm just gonna bring my head back on the second block, and then just take your left arm underneath your right once you're comfortable, and have your legs bent or straight. If it's really heavy of a back bend, know that this second block could be on the lowest level again. Right? But I could also bring my hands underneath my hips. That makes it easier. So you don't have to be as low as I'm with my left arm underneath my right. Just adjusting my shoulder, adjusting my spine. I'm going to take my right arm underneath my left arm. So I'm doing this more as like a way to help with your structure, your skeletal system. But like if you're really wanting something easy, you know, come off the blocks. And then just bring the arms down. Rather than just coming out of this or coming out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll to my left. And that's kind of what we were doing at the walls. We were rotating. So your torso's rotating. And then just come back to center and then rotate to the right. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to twist in that one direction. Well, then you really know which way you need to turn your body in most instances, whether it's sitting, standing, or walking. So you can roll to your left or your right. You can use your hands and then bring yourself up. If you need more rest, obviously you could lie down and take that rest. But I'm going to sit in a cross-legged position. So I hope these classes are helping you. I mean, I really enjoy offering them. So if you did not know, all these classes are uploaded onto my YouTube channel. So if you're a subscriber, thank you. If you're not, you could subscribe and then you'd be notified when we would be uploading those videos. And it helps me help more people. So the more exposure I get, so share it with people if you can. It really helps me. All these classes are donational, so if you can't afford it, just keep taking them. Don't feel bad, don't feel guilty, but also share them, and again, then I can teach more people, and the more people that are donating obviously helps my cause. So Jon Witt Yoga is my Venmo and my PayPal, and there's other forms that you could pay me, so you could direct message me if you'd like to make a donation. I have a class tomorrow. It's from 10 to 11. It's on Zoom. So I could see you, I could help give you feedback of the class. You'd have to register to get the link for that class, and that's jonwittyoga.com. You can see more of my offerings in terms of services, how it could help you more. So again, have a beautiful weekend if I don't see you. All right, take care. Much love.